Nice.
Hey, howdy, hello, guys. We're here in Evansville, Indiana, in the fall of 2023, but I think you're about to fall in love with Jerome and Ashley Whittington. Hi, guys. Thanks for inviting me out here.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate you driving down and making the trip.
We just did the tour. If you haven't seen that, go ahead and check out the tour video. We're going to talk in depth. Yeah, thank you for showing me around the store. That's really impressive. The design, the labor of love you guys put in.
It's a mess. Right now, it's a work in progress. It's normally not so cluttered, but we did just get a huge buy, and finding the space for everything is a constant problem.
It always will be.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
How's this year been for you guys in 2023?
It's been all right. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
different.
obviously an adjustment. Obviously, our world was rocked in 2020, and then our business shifted where we were carrying more new, bigger business than what it had been. And overall, I would say in the past 6 months, things have slowed down.
Just had to adjust how much new inventory each week we would have come in because sales varied. Every store has a dead season. Well, we didn't have that for a while because of the shutdown. So we're getting used to that again because we definitely had a dead season this year.
I just discovered these guys maybe a year ago, actually less probably. And watching your videos, being here, and getting to see the actual work that you've been doing, it truly is impressive. I know lately it's been a struggle. What is it like day to day as you've owned a store here? What's it like?
It's work, like anything else. If you want to keep it going, you definitely have to work.
What's it like day to day?
Day to day is usually, Jerome's got projects that he's working on, generally gear or video game stuff, I guess.
The gear stuff's impressive. I know
Yeah.
Jerome has been really working hard on that.
Yeah. And then
Price and records.
Yeah, price and records. I also I can price and grade records, but then I usually handle most of the ordering. It's always, seeing what people are wanting, taking special orders. There's always something to price in the shop. Like it's like a dream, to be able to do this. Our first shop that we had, Jerome ran it by himself, and then
the flea market.
Even pre-flea market.
Before that.
So yeah, we had a store from 2002 to 2009 doing the same stuff. Records were a smaller part of it.
Since then, records are the biggest part.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but back then, I worked full-time at a local bakery. So I worked and did that for 18 years.
I worked at a bakery too.
Did you?
Over the
Aw.
pandemic.
Aw.
It's amazing, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it's different. I mean, like I did it for 18 years. It was like my first
Wow.
full-time job. But yeah, I just wish I could go back in time and been more involved in the first store. It would have been awesome because for us to be able to do this together.
Sure.
And so when we started back in business again, since the closure of the first store in 2009, we did the flea market on the weekends. And that's how it started off. And then in 2018, we opened the brick and mortar again.
And here we are.
2 years ago, we moved into this building. We were
So
in
only
a
2 years.
smaller
Yeah.
building.
It was so small.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. So we got a lot more space, but it doesn't matter how much space you have, you'll use
You
it.
always run the room.
You always will. I guess that's my next question. How has the scale of your store grown since you started, even before you got this to now?
The biggest difference is going to be we carry more new vinyl than we've ever carried. I would say 75% of our space is dedicated to records.
We would order some new vinyl, but we ordered directly from labels that we liked, and but we mainly had used vinyl. And so then in 2020, there was another shop in town that carried mostly new vinyl, and they didn't and they were in the mall. And when they didn't reopen, there was that void our customers were asking us for.
There you go, just naturally.
Yeah, and so then we started ordering new, and literally you can even go by our taxes and how much we were spending a month, and it's almost enough to give someone a heart attack. And on paper, it looks like there's so much money that would flow through a business that surely, but I mean the profit margin on new is so small that it's you got to sell a lot more
We make
new.
a lot of money for the distributors. We make
Yeah.
a lot of money for
Right.
the labels.
But I mean, we're not complaining. We choose to do this, and we also choose what we order and all of that. We still have to compete with online big box stores, all that stuff. Yeah.
I do miss just ordering from the smaller labels, Fat Possum and Southern Lord and.
But once somebody
Relax
gets all of those titles, then what? You
Right.
still have to be able to get more stuff in.
Right.
What about the social media part of it too? How has that grown? Because I know, you guys make videos. You also started a Facebook group.
We used to have a MySpace page way back in the day.
Yeah. Oh, with our first store? Yeah. Aw.
And that would have the new releases on it. And we actually don't think we put the new releases on Facebook, do we?
Well, I do post. Okay, so sometimes it is hard to keep up with everything. So we do have the Instagram and the Facebook for the business, like under the business name, and the YouTube channel. And then we did start a vinyl group on Facebook back in 2015, like a regional collective.
How big is that?
Oh my gosh, it's about 1,000 people,
Yeah.
but it's like
Wow.
Southern Indiana vinyl collectors. And now that's not for the business; that's for the area and for
all
collectors.
Collectors in Indiana.
So
There's
like,
usually
I don't
people-
even promote the shop in there. Like, there's people in that group that probably don't even know that we started it. Like, possibly.
But
Now,
the community is run with other people.
Right,
Too, is what
yeah.
you-
Oh,
when
absolutely.
I first started it, there was like what 30 people.
yeah,
and
it was just
all
like some
other
local
record
old
collectors
school
I knew.
collectors that we knew
So,
from back in the day.
yeah.
So it's definitely grown. And then I recently started TikTok, although
Nice. That's an interesting whole thing in it.
very whole interesting thing. And it's also, I'm still figuring out what I'm doing with it.
Me
because
too.
It's like I'm using the hashtag dresses and records, and I'm kind of like showing what I'm listening to in the shop and maybe like doing a twirl in my dress or whatever outfit I'm wearing. So with the hashtag dresses and records, it's not necessarily like sometimes I'm showing records in my personal collection that we're listening to, or also records that are in the bins because some people will try to buy it. And then I'm like, I didn't really think this through. So I'm still evolving. And then if we ever get to a point where we have a website built, I can link a website and then somehow grow that from there.
Major difference though from back in the day. But I would say she does 90% of the social media.
Well, yeah, and customers can reach us through, message me on, all of those platforms.
It's got to make it easier from, I guess, earlier days is being able to use that to your advantage just to help boost store and bring the community closer together, which is what you're trying to do here.
YouTube, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, that's how you found us.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to us. Like,
YouTube algorithm. There wasn't a direct recommendation.
yeah.
It was just the algorithm.
But so wild because, I honestly, when we started it, we just assumed that it would be mostly locals who would see it.
You
And
never
To buy a
locals.
record.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's not, and I appreciate it that like there are people who even watch us that don't necessarily, have any intention to buy from it, which is all good. I mean, especially because there are people who do buy from us and then they will call the shop directly or like, since we don't have a website, it's not like we're making it easy on people. Like I can email them an invoice. I mean, there are ways that we can get it done, but it's like the fact that they're going the extra step to get to us is really nice.
We have people from Texas and people overseas that'll order records from the YouTube video. Which
Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio. So yeah, we're lucky.
We're all lucky. Like this community is so great. Do you ever host vinyl trades here and moderate that?
We have meet and greets.
Tell me about
Community
that.
come and people are willing to could bring their records and trade amongst themselves, whatever.
So what we had done in the past, like we would call it Southern Indiana Vinyl Collectors Meet and Greet, and then people could like if they wanted to trade amongst each other or whatever. And so it wasn't necessarily like a record show where people are setting up tables or booths. It was more like
Nothing like that.
And in the past, we'll bring in some pizzas and stuff, and other collectors are meeting each other. And we were even helping like foster trades amongst people.
How do you do that?
Well, so like if somebody has like something they're wanting to trade with somebody, I'll look it over, we'll grade it, the condition, and we could put like a value on it for both of them where both of them feel comfortable. Now, it's been a while since we've hosted one like that, and then also had the time to where we could set up and foster all of those trades.
That's a lot.
Because, as we've grown, it's become harder to like do that.
But we have had people bring ultrasonics and demo ultrasonic units, and we've had people bring vacuums, demo vacuums. We've had
I love my vacuum.
a lot of people just
I saw your video.
just got to meet each other, and people that were into the same music. It's basically just
make
for
connections.
local collectors to kind of get to know each other, know who's out there, know other places they can go. Like if they want to, like we like having the store, but we also we like the idea of like if there's a place to buy records, people should know about. Like if there's a flea market booth,
Right. If someone's gonna ask us like where they can get like all the things, we're gonna like. We're not going to be like,
we definitely,
right. We definitely we want all the business, but we don't expect all the business too. And, you know, especially like if people are making the effort to like
We want the
go
hobby
to
to
an
grow.
actual,
That's
yeah,
the
we
main
want the
thing.
hobby to grow. And like, so overall, as people are finding records that they're looking for, especially ones that we don't have, I mean, you know, then they're getting excited about records, and there's going to be a record that they're going to want that we will eventually. So, and
That's just
so
how that
like,
works.
yeah.
Help people
So-
learn how to set up turntables.
Oh,
The education.
that's true. So Jerome has helped set up a lot of people's turntables for free, and like turntables that were bought elsewhere. And again, like not trying to, you know, toot his horn or
No, I'm doing it for you. Go ahead. Tell me.
people call and ask questions about stereo gear, and you know, we're happy to always help. Like our shop number's a cell, so like we always give people our actual number to like, you know, text us, you know, this.
The personal touch.
And I mean, Jerome spent hours before with people in their systems whenever there's been no money given to us. You know what I'm saying?
But y'all also got to stop bugging Atmosphere Collectibles. They got a lot of work to do.
No. I mean, if their
Don't
records
do that
sound
with-
good on their stereo, it is good for business. They'll
Yeah,
buy
it
records
is,
from us.
like,
So, I mean, it's not 100%
Exactly.
just us being so generous. I mean, it is good for business because we want them to understand how records can sound good. you know? So, yeah.
You can't find that on Reddit. I mean, you can try.
You can,
Well,
you
you
can find a lot of misinformation.
But, you know, I just think that, like, I'm not saying that Reddit's so bad. I mean,
I
it's
love
like,
Reddit,
I
yeah.
do love it too. But at the same
It's a
time,
lot
like,
of fun.
you can
'cause
overanalyze.
deep dive and then just not enjoy anything.
Right,
Like,
overanalyze. Like, just play it and hear it.
Sometimes you don't have to have the $1,000 setup and
You don't. You don't have to have those.
Yeah.
$200 audio file copy to enjoy a record.
Right,
You
yeah.
know, it can sound good. All through the 80s, we listened to records. We didn't have to have, you know.
Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
Remember those days?
That's the main thing. I think is just being community based and knowing all the local collectors and getting the local collectors to know each other amongst themselves and letting the hobby grow naturally.
Yeah.
Everybody enjoy themselves, and record collecting should be fun.
But there's a little bit of frustration in there for everyone because there's always going to be that elusive record. But mostly fun, and mostly like there's enough records that are in print that you can find on your want list until you can get to the one, or they repress the one that you can't, that's been elusive, you know.
But if you don't have like local shops, it's really, really full of misinformation. You go inside a store, you look through the crates, you can, like at my shop, they have a place you can play test it. You can, usually they play great. I've never had a bad experience. And then if I did have like something I thought was weird, they've educated me.
Right.
That's what it's about. And that's what you're talking about. I guess the other thing is like we're surrounded by these amazing shelves. I just want to know. I mean, I talk about Oob Cubes. The shelves and stuff have been so hard for me to figure out. Transporting, it's heavy. It's a lot, right?
Oh, yeah.
We love it. We're never going to stop collecting, but tell me how you do it.
Something that is really cool about these shelves, though, is we have shelves from every era. And these are actually from record stores.
Yeah.
These weren't made, like, the ones in the front here, those are actually from the 80s. Those over there are from the 70s. We have that one there, which is from the 90s.
Which I hate that band.
Yeah, it's a terrible band.
It's a terrible
like,
band. But
you
we
can
got it for
obviously
free.
tell they didn't care much about records in the 90s.
Right.
Vintage.
Yeah.
They're still here. They're doing the job.
And those those Karma ones, those three along the back there, those are the Karma ones.
Yeah.
What time period would those been from?
80s.
80s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have shelves going all the way back to the 70s, all the way up to the 90s and early 2000s.
So you sort of inherited them from
Well,
Every
different-
chance I've ever
yeah.
got, I bought them.
Yeah. Now, back before we opened our first store, Jerome, we had these in his house. And we had our
That's
personal
cool.
collection stored in these white ones, so that the four that here are, no, there's five. And then as we needed them for the shop, we had to transfer all of ours into like cubes at home. Now
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, we have ours in cubes. And although they're more sleek and stuff, there's something about flipping. But
There is.
flipping is also not the most space saving.
It's not.
Or anything like that. So there's like pros and cons to all of those now. There's some really nice plans on Etsy that you can build your own
I love
cabinets
Etsy.
where you like pull the drawer out and can flip, but they push in, which is almost like
What are those called? Do you,
I'll have to send you links because I know I found those plans before, and there's like a drawer system. Then one of our locals actually built them, and he kind of tweaked them.
Pretty amazing.
And they're in his, and then he put the lights are kind of like those
The strip lights?
LED strips in the front, and it's glorious. It's so glorious. Like I've seen anytime, his pictures on Facebook, and I'm like, man. And he's like not even like Mr. Building all stuff all the time. So he just went by the plans. So make your own shelf plans or whatever, Google type things. And the Etsy listing has come up for years now. So it's pretty consistent one that I've seen.
Yeah.
And that's what Mark used. But
yeah, if you ever get a chance to have like old bins and just use old bins or make modern bins, there is something about flipping. You will spend a lot more time listening to records. You'll spend a lot more time rearranging your records. You'll put certain ones in the front.
Oh, yeah, we always did that. Whenever I would take a picture on Facebook of like, what I'm listening to, you could always tell in the background. Like I put my favorite ones in these bins, and then people would be like, "What store are you at?" And I'm like, "That's my living room." Like, I don't know, But I mean, I knew. Like, yeah, obviously I knew.
What do you think about transporting too?
As far as like if you're moving, now say you're moving, we always tell our locals, if you're moving and you need boxes to like pack your records back and forth, come to your local record store. We always have like boxes that our records are shipped to us in. So like, those are great to like,
they're designed for it.
Deckers have like supports in between them. So, but also U-Haul boxes are fine,
Trust me, your local record store will be more than happy to give you some of their cards.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like we're happy to give away boxes to our people who's moving, And so that's one good thing to check with. And then the U-Haul boxes, now depending on how long-term, there's also the, what is it, the brand, the long boxes, they do the comic.
It's like Baker's box.
BCW, yeah. Well, if that's for the BCW, or is it BCW?
So.
They have different sizes. Yeah, Amazon has them. And, but
Bags
like.
Unlimited.
Bags Unlimited.
Okay.
But I think when you go to order from Bags Unlimited, you get charged freight. I think
they're super pricey already.
How much is that? Like comparison, like what's the best value for people?
Well, best value would be the U-Haul boxes or free boxes from your record store.
Yeah.
But like the U-Haul boxes.
You can get those crates for what are they, $5, $6?
Well, the crates at Walmart though, that you can't stack them, that's another thing. But those plastic crates are up to $6 or $7 now.
Right.
Last I checked. But you can buy plastic crates at Walmart. But yeah, Walmart does have boxes. So you can go to U-Haul and get like their, I think they're like the perfect size for records. They're like, I think they're their boxes. Either way, whatever.
That sounds right.
And I think that those would be good enough for not like years and years stacked in, on top of each other.
Of course.
Like if you were going to say, need to put them in storage for maybe 6 months, maybe you'll be fine. Stacked because when we first switched,
we've had to do that before.
Yeah, we couldn't afford to buy all new cubes for our entire collection all at once, and so we had to like have some of our collection boxed for periods of time. And this is before we were ordering the volume of new that week, so we didn't just have our records, our boxes, and all that shipping boxes. So I think we just would go to Walmart. We had the U-Haul boxes, and you could stack them in that. So
what about like for stores? Because there's some stores out there. What do you recommend to give stores some options as they're designing their layout? Your layout's leagues ahead of people who don't, people starting. It goes to show it will take time no matter what. But what are some like secret hacks or tips or tricks you found that just work?
Well, so I would have to say that we're very lucky.
Something to flip through.
Yeah, I think we're very lucky to have the tiered flip bins, and all of our bins that we've bought like an opportunity. We've had like the one Karma Records in Indianapolis was like stopping to carry vinyl, so one guy local to there bought them, then resold them, and we were able to buy like those 3 at once. But we had to like rent a truck and go all the way up to Indy. We had to. Like one bin that we don't like, but we got for free from Coconuts because they were like redesigning their layout.
And it still works. You're still using it.
Works. I mean, it's not our favorite flip bin, but
I like it.
I would say that there is a generic style of design I've seen at some record stores. The one thing I would recommend, even if it's harder to find, you can find plans for these tiered kind of bins and they're worth it to do the tiered kind because one, each little cubby doesn't have so much
Doesn't put
pressure.
on the
And we have like in our $4 bin, that was a free bin given to us, and it was from another store that's no longer in town. But, and again, we were lucky. They're real long, and it's just one row. They're not tiered. So when you get halfway, too much weight all on one side. So I would say put a support in between there. But there's all kinds of plans on that. You can build your own
there's nothing
shelves.
worse than all the records falling over on you while you're trying to.
My goodness.
That's just no fun. The other thing I would say is, you really want to alphabetize and even separate some genres because it makes stuff easier and people don't have to spend their whole day. Sometimes it's fun just to sort through random boxes, and that's like when you're out on the weekend and other times you're here to pick up a record and you want to grab it, you don't want to go through the entire.
I guess that's what I was going to ask too about the organization of the records themselves. Are you going through those manually? Are you plugging them in Discogs and then sorting by alphabet? Is there any tricks to getting that done?
What do you mean?
Like, so my problem is like, I alphabetize stuff, right? But like so many times I end up pulling them all out and then having to resort them because I'm in little crates. So is there a way to sort of, I don't know, to quickly sort large quantity? Is there any way? Is there any secret?
Just alphabetize and then separate in the genre, and then that's really it,
You doing the name of the artist?
Oh yeah, just the old school way. Like any record store you would have went into would do it like A to Z, and if it's an artist, it's by a last name. But if it's an artist like John Spencer and the Blues Explosion, it would be under J, even though the last name is in there.
Yeah, or like
Okay.
So like Bob Seger in the Silver Bullet Band technically is supposed to be under B.
Or Bob Seger's System would be under B. But now when an artist has multiple things like that, sometimes we will put them all together.
Right.
Like John Cougar Mellencamp.
That's what I do.
We just put under Mellencamp,
yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, we'll put stuff where we know that people are going to look for. So whatever Bob Seger it is, we know people are going to look for Bob Seger in the S's because Seger. So
tell me this section I'm going to call it Good Old Days, Funny, Odd, and Favorites. I want to hear, let's do Record Store Day. What's maybe funny, odd, or favorite Record Store Day memory?
All right. So I think this was probably the first year that we were in this building on a Record Store Day. And so I think it would have been 2021. And anyway, it was a great day, awesome. And later in that afternoon, a guy came through and he was looking at like the used CDs mainly, came up to the counter and he bought a few. And he was real nice. And he said he was driving through on his way back to Nashville or somewhere. And I was like, oh, thanks for stopping in while you were in here. And he was like, well, I've kind of got like this thing where every time I stop by like a local record store, I always look in the CD section for one of my band's old CDs, and if they have it, I'll buy it. And I was like,
his band's old
CDs. And so I was like, oh, cool, that's awesome. Oh, you were in a band, And he was like, yeah. And so he had found one of the CDs, and the band is called 9 Days. And I didn't ask him anything about it. I just was like, he said, oh, well, I'm actually got stuff under my name, Brian DeVoe. And he ran out to his car and gave me one of his records, which was really, really nice.
Personal touch.
So as soon as he left, I was telling Jerome, I was like, oh, that was so cool. That guy found one of his band's old CDs in there. And I said, Jerome was like, what was the band? And I said, 9 Days. And he was like, and I wasn't familiar with it. And he was like, you never heard of that band? And I was like, no. And he was like, the song, the story about a girl. And I was like, I've never heard of it. He was like, you have heard this song. I guarantee it. It was a huge hit, like YouTube video, 20 million views type of big, And so then whenever Jerome pulled up on a phone and played it for me, I definitely recognized it. But everyone I told that story to, they were like, knew the guy by name. They were like, oh my gosh, he was in your store. Yeah. Like that was such a big deal. And here I was just like, I don't even know. I was so really embarrassed. I mean, it's a embarrassing story on me that I didn't know, had not heard.
But he sounds like he played it chill too, like throughout the process.
Chill. He was so chill and very nice and gracious, and gave us one of his solo albums. We played it in the shop, and really, really good guy. And he probably just thought like, oh, she plays it cool, like, because I'm sure he would have thought it's got to be more likely that I was just totally playing it chill than I, as far as he knows, work in a record store, own a record store, doesn't matter. It wouldn't know that,
Yeah, it would have been Paris, so she'd be like, that's the guy from 9.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Have that, and you was just like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And then find out after the fact.
Chill, right. But then, like, because the joke between Jerome and I ever so often is like, Jerome will say to me, if I don't know something, like, you own a record store, like, you should be.
How do you not know that?
Yeah, exactly. And so I'd just be like, add it to the list. But I'm like, well, yeah, half the people I ask about don't know who my favorite band is. So, like, do I have to know of every mainstream band of all time?
Right.
Like, I
Double
can't
standard.
keep up with all of it.
Funny, odd, or favorite, buying collections or live shows. I'll give you a couple options. Any live? What's like the biggest? Who's the biggest band you've seen live? Obviously, 9 Days guy's the biggest guy who's come in. What's the biggest concert?
Oh, the biggest, like,
biggest one you've ever been to?
now in my life?
Sure.
Lollapalooza when it was Smashing Pumpkins and Beastie Boys, 93 or 4. And it was, I call Dare Creek, and it's by Indianapolis. It's in Indiana. But so it was the one and only Lollapalooza that I've been to. But I haven't been to a ton of festivals. I would have been in high school. But George Clinton was there. But Beastie Boys, it was awesome because they played a ton off of Paul's Boutique, and that's my favorite.
Yeah.
So it was a great time, and I went with my sister, Brooke, and we had a great time. But at the same time, there were so many people. And
I bet.
So it was kind of like...
overwhelming.
I felt like an ant,
Right.
in a ant army or whatever.
Maybe that's something for Jerome too. Do you have any stories, Jerome? Maybe funny, odd, or favorite live show?
As far as just great bands, I've seen a lot of great bands. KMFDM, The Dying Fetus, but R.E.M. was probably one of the best shows I ever saw, and Radiohead opened up for them, and I watched Radiohead, and I thought, man, that band's really good. Then R.E.M. came on stage. This would have been maybe Automatic.
No, it was the Benz.
It was a Benz, sure, yeah. Radiohead was on the
So it
Benz.
would have been...
So, and they were really good. But R.E.M. came on, and they just blew Radiohead away. I mean, it was just like watching
Sorry, Tom York.
Yeah.
watching a band that had been playing for so long, just really.
But I mean, he says that like R.E.M. was, the Radiohead was amazing.
It was a great show. I was like, man, that band's incredible. But then R.E.M. came on, and it's just like, Radiohead doesn't sound so good anymore, So, and they were great. So, I mean, R.E.M. was just, they were on. That's all you could say.
That's so cool. I guess maybe my biggest one was, I was born in 96, so I don't have a lot to glean back. I mean, I didn't get to see Kiss in their prime.
Yeah.
I did get to...
I didn't either. Yeah.
Well, like, I guess, like, maybe the biggest one that I've ever been to is Ed Sheeran. I got to see Ed Sheeran on the Multiply tour in 2015. And I'll never forget. I mean, the amount of ladies screaming the loudest, highest pitch sound you've ever heard in your life when Ed Sheeran came on stage. And I did really enjoy. Amazing, just him by himself in 2015.
I got to see Metallica when they were first starting out.
Oh.
Then I got to see them again on the Master of Puppets tour when they opened for Ozzy, and they really stole the show. But I saw them 2 or 3 years before that. So
The interesting thing too about Jerome had still lived in Phoenix on that Master of Puppets when Metallica opened up for Ozzy tour. But in the back we have framed poster when they came to Evansville and they were going to play at Mesker. James Hetfield was skateboarding in the parking lot, broke his arm. They had to cancel the show, so they didn't act. They're on the bill, they're on the poster. But Metallica didn't play. And so all the people that are from Evansville, they remember that concert or that tour totally different. Luckily, Jerome saw that before the R.E.M. and
Phoenix, yeah, and they really stole the show. It was kind of the same thing, except reverse. Metallica. I mean, Ozzy was great. Ozzy's always great, but Metallica was just like they did steal the show, and that was really something to see them in the early days. Like it's sometimes you think of Metallica now and you're just like, but back then they really were like just incredible.
That's so cool. Okay, maybe let's see what we got. Ooh, okay. Well, let's go back to a couple questions for stores maybe watching. Okay. I titled this section Atmos-FEARS. Maybe what's the biggest hurdle you feel like you guys have had to do to get to where you are as a store?
Can I go in? Okay.
And take it where you want it.
Okay. Well, just in general, when we reopened as a brick and mortar in 2018, we had no savings, no money in the bank, no loans, no anything. Just zero. I mean, we had inventory, and luckily when we've closed our first store, we didn't get rid of our fixtures, because if it wasn't for the fact that we held on to the fixtures, even though a lot of them are mixed matched and all of the brackets for the walls on the back, the bracing or whatever, had we not still had all that stuff and like had a framework that Jerome could build a store around,
Never would happen.
it never would happen.
At the time, we had one of our really good friends, Michael Craig, kind of pushed us into it. Between her and him, kind of pushed me into just jumping the gun and opening the store with like 1 month's rent. And
oh yeah, so I'd say too, like we also jumped into like the first building that we found that we thought we could cover the rent. We signed the lease. The landlord literally looked at one of his like helpers and was like, "Can you go to the gas?" And this was like at 10 in the morning. He was like, "Give me a beer and some fireballs." And I was like, "Well, that seems unprofessional." And he was like, "I've got arthritis." But then as it turns out, he's like major drinker and also like slumlord and didn't fix any of our, So it was like we didn't. But maybe like not going in, maybe just going in head first.
Grabbing the first building we saw was a mistake, and I would have waited a little longer, but I kind of got outvoted and pushed into it. But
everything led us to where we are, and everything sort of has changed, and like, we're like the little engine that could, I do sometimes get people message me on like on Instagram or like on different platforms, and they're like, I'm thinking about opening I always wanted to open a record store, or like, and no offense, or maybe they've only been collect, and I don't mean this, you can collect however long you want and open a record store, but I just mean say that they just got into the hobby, but they're like really into it and they also want to open a record store. So I don't mean to like sound like, but I don't mean negative. I mean, make sure you're doing it because you love it, because we're not getting rich off this. We just are trying to continue to do it.
You are not going to make money your first couple of years, no matter what you do or how good you are. Right. It is a challenge to get those first couple of years done. So
unless you, and again, if you can write a business plan and like all of these things and go to a bank and get a loan and go about it that way, then maybe you can, or if you have some sort of funds like set aside. But I just know from the way we only have from perspective of like, we literally did this like just off of sheer passion, I guess. I mean, he's sold records since the 90s. Like he's collected records his whole life, but he's also sold and dealt records and priced and graded and appraised records for insurance companies and sold back in gold mine auctions back in those days, like in the 90s. So like his experience and then the passion and then we've got cheerleaders, local cheerleaders and supporters. So
yeah, make sure you have some good support system because you're going to need it.
And you sort of answered it about the store starting out. What's a mistake that they made? If you can just sum it up, maybe in a sentence, what do you think is the biggest mistake record stores make starting out?
I would say our biggest mistake was the building, jumping into it too fast. But I'm glad we did, because otherwise it could be a mistake just waiting forever too. Some people.
Wow. Forever. Yeah, a leap of faith though.
Yeah, it is a leap of faith. So. we did make some mistakes ordering new vinyl. You know, you can't order too much because the week after something is released, it's already going to be a harder sell. Yeah. And some things like you really want to carry it because, oh, it's cool. And you want to be the store that has that. Might not be the best seller. And just because you like something does not mean it's going to be the best seller.
It is sort of, you have to do it with the personal touch. You have to do it with your customers in mind, your friends, the reason you do it, keeping that balance. One more, what's the best way you found for stores to treat maybe less than delightful customer interactions? How would you encourage stores to get to that?
Well, that's really hard.
And honestly, you're the guy I look up to. You're so chill. Like, you're kind of my icon when it comes to record store chill owners. So obviously it comes naturally to you. Is there some encouragement you can give to those shops who are like in the throes of it? It's tough.
You just have to, like, give me an example of what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, so my local shop, man, I love those guys. And they were a little bitter about the Taylor Swift record store day in April. And you could hear it. They were answering the phone, Swiftie hotline, you know. And obviously there's a lot of people who just maybe new into it. They're not educated. You know, they don't know what they're doing. And they're just there for the fun of it, or maybe they're causing problems. Is there some of those type examples where it's like, is there a way you handle it?
As far as like the Taylor Swift people,
which are some of my biggest friends too. They're great people.
You gotta have them. Without them, you know. The thing about having a title like Taylor Swift come out on Record Store Day is the sheer amount of people it brings out is just a good thing for any store. It is a positive thing. So, yeah, it might be a little annoying because some of those people are never going to come back in. But even if 2 of them do, that's 2 new customers.
But
keeping the long game in mind.
Right. But also, though, we do feel bad for our regular diehard people who have come out every record store day that we've hosted every time, and they see how long the line is, even though it's once it starts going, it does go fast because those people are only get the one thing and they go right through the line. But it's just like, they're almost to the point where like, if there's a Taylor Swift release, I doubt that they will even come. Yeah, they might not bother coming. So that's a bummer because they do support us all year round. But again, not everybody's going to be happy about everything all the time, especially when it comes to the record store day list.
Upset about record store day, and there's always going to be people that are excited about record store day. And record store day overall is a very positive thing. Not because stores make money, because I don't know of a single store that makes money on record store day. You don't make any money. Whatever inventory is left over, you have to sell so cheap to unload. It's crazy. But you do see people you've never seen before, and they're walking into a record store. And so that is a positive thing.
And the amount of love. So, like, I can say that I remember the first time it happened. Like, it just blows my mind. Not only do we have, like, our regulars and we, like, family of Atmos-FEARS, or, you know, they're family to us, and they started off as customers. So like, and they're helping us like get the store ready, you know, and then they're camping out in line. They met in line, and now they're hanging out in line. And then there's people who've waited for hours, some overnight, and some for hours and hours in line. And then when we come to open the door up, and then everyone starts clapping. Now, I'm sure they're clapping because they're excited that we're going to finally get this thing going. But it's also like they're giving us love. And it's like, oh my gosh, you guys are giving us your business and your like
the whole data.
Yeah. And so it's a big old love fest. And I know that sometimes people can get jaded about record store day, or just when you collect it so hard and you focus so much on the buying and collecting and finding these records, and maybe the Reddit and I got to be the first one to find out of every released.
I'm not saying, I need to rephrase myself too. There could be stores that make money on record store day if they're ordering like 100. If they have a website and they're ordering like
Rough Trade.
Yeah,
Rough Trade, Spin Me Around is a big store. They have their Facebook page. I bet they make good money. You know,
your normal store.
Yes,
you know,
mom and pop size store.
Yeah.
But I just say overall, it's like, you know, the amount of the love that we get on it. You know, we're just.
But I probably wasn't a very record store day person before we started doing record store day. I've completely flip-flopped. I really love record store day now.
And Black Friday is like literally less than a week away.
Yeah. So a friend of ours made a documentary about record collecting. This is like when we were still technically in the flea market, and it's called Between the Grooves, and it's uploaded onto YouTube.
Fantastic.
Oh, did you see that?
Yeah.
Aw. And so back then though, when we were just still contemplating reopening as a brick and mortar again, Jerome is in Matt's interviewing Jerome, and Jerome is saying, and he's asking him, "Oh, you're thinking about maybe doing a record store again in the future?" And Jerome was like, "Yeah."
So in other words, you're not going to be able to come buy the new Beyonce.
It's not like we're gonna have like the new Beyonce album.
I literally
or anything.
remember that part.
And then,
I will find Beyonce in this building somewhere.
Oh,
She's in here.
She is. Oh, we had a new Beyonce whenever the last one was her on a
Renaissance?
horse. I was going to say she's on a horse or something. Yeah, we had that one. Obviously, I live in a bubble, and you know, I didn't know about 9 Days, and I know about Beyonce, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes when I'll play, if I go on a quick trip in the car, I play the radio just so I can like hear what song it is, and then where the radio will tell you like who the artist is, and then I'm like, that's Ed Sheeran. Like, so when you mentioned Ed Sheeran, I was like, oh my gosh, that's what he sounds like. So anyway, but I also can like know all the different eras of Deep Purple. So like, I mean, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. There's modern music is not necessarily my strength.
You like what you like, and honestly,
Well, and I
it's
like
cool
a lot of it too. I mean, I like Olivia Rodrigo. We love Lana Del Rey. So I mean, it's just
Love me
funny
some
how,
Lana.
yeah, for sure.
Man, y'all gave me some great information about stuff for record stores, record store day, dealing with customers, storing vinyl, running a shop. There's so much good stuff here. I guess the video stuff too. I mean, what's your favorite video that you've done? Do you have one? And if so, what do you think about, what was it that made it your favorite?
One of my personal favorites, even though that like it was like one of the most recent, and we haven't been consistent lately, but was the video that we did for the Analog Archives contest.
Yeah, I watched that.
Best sophomore our sophomore albums as great as, so it was a recent video, but we were showing records from our personal collection. And the reason why it's my favorite is because from the beginning of us doing videos, or early on in the old school, in the channel days, was the Thanksgiving video that we did. I'll have to actually say that.
The
I need to
one
see
with
that.
your sister, the one she did with your sister,
yeah.
was really good.
Brooke?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so sweet.
But I would say, yeah, the Thanksgiving Day video was good.
Nice.
Because for one, so it was early on, we picked out a bunch of records, and we were like just showing records that we're thankful for, and it was like close to Thanksgiving. And this was before we were able to do Record Store Day, and we were a brick and mortar shop. We applied for Record Store Day, and it took like
Took forever.
2 years. It took us a really long time, and so like we were kind of, I hate to say it, but like, and I feel now because we've been on both sides, when you're a record store who has applied to be a Record Store Day approved store and still haven't heard back, and then it's Record Store Day, you're kind of like, man, this sucks. Like,
There's no
nobody
store in
cares
your
about us
town
today.
that
Or,
carries
you know?
Record Store Day records.
Right. So it felt like, it was sort of sad, but we were like, these are records we're thankful for. It's Thanksgiving. We're really blessed in general. Like, we are just so blessed. Like, we have so many great people who are rooting for us and are like, love us and stuff and show us love. So we were showing our favorite records and stuff like that. So the records where we are a little bit more personable, I guess, or showing our personal collection, because we always have intended to show both records for sale.
Yeah, we definitely want to do more
be part of the
collection
VC,
videos.
like, so.
I think the original reason we started doing videos was I wanted to show my collection, and we just
Yeah.
haven't got around to it.
Well,
natural.
and at the
We
beginning,
did a few videos.
we
like,
had bought, like, we did research on cameras, and this is all, like, what we could afford at different times. So then we bought a nice camera. And then every time we would film a video, we bought the gimbal thing.
I was editing the videos.
But then they would take so long to render and it would fail. And our computer was just not good enough to like support all of that.
Relatable.
Yeah. So like then when we just were like, we got to get videos out, even if we have to record them from the phone and they're not the best quality,
So
as long as we're getting.
We just shoot it with the phone
And they don't look very, and I know we've got much room to be, to grow and improve.
Better than no video.
But yeah, better than no video, which we've been.
Some of my favorite videos on the internet.
Oh, you're just being nice.
I love watching y'all's videos. Here's the other thing too. We're gonna get to the dupes if we have time. We got to do this. This is gonna be fun. We're gonna go through these rapid fire. You can't really explain your answers. Overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated. I want to hear from both of you guys. We'll just go through them rapid fire. Okay. All right, and I'll squeeze mine in too.
You first, or however you.
We'll do it that way. Okay. Ergonomic seats.
Overrated.
Underrated.
I'm gonna say underrated because mine's broken right now. Long texts.
Overrated.
Overrated.
Overrated. Vintage Jams shorts from the 80s. You remember those? My dad told me about those.
My dad had those. Jerome?
Perfect.
Oh, yeah, right. I would say overrated.
I'm going to go over. Fall, the season, autumn.
Perfect.
Perfect.
I'll go overrated. I'm a summer boy. What about falling in love?
Perfect.
Perfect.
I'm going to say underrated because I'm looking to you guys. Y'all are my icons, relationship goals, record store owners. Okay, this is a serious one. Global regulation frameworks, aka managing the supply chain. Overrated, underrated, or perfect?
Underrated.
Underrated?
Very important. I would say. What about this is serious too? Macaroni and cheese.
Definitely perfect. Well, it depends on which macaroni and cheese.
Well,
Perfect. Perfect.
Overrated.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. I love it. I can't explain it. Intergovernmental policy. Like politics.
Yeah, I could care less.
Overrated.
It's appropriate. Overrated. Cincinnati style chili.
I don't know. I haven't had it.
I don't know what that is.
Cincinnati style chili is overrated.
What
I'll
is
answer it for you.
Okay.
There's a lot of debate about chili. We can't really explain it. Get into it now. It's
I don't
overrated.
even know what it is.
There's so much debate. Have you ever
Does it
heard
have
of like
beans
Scott?
on it?
Yeah,
Okay.
they fill it with beans. It's like chili in a hot dog, the Cincinnati style chili. Or so I'm sorry, they do a hot dog. You can do it with spaghetti.
Oh.
It's not great.
Okay.
Yeah, spaghetti does not belong in chili. Let's just end it there.
Thank you, Jerome.
Okay. We'll say then overrated.
Okay, well, what about chili, the red hot chili peppers?
Perfect for what they are, I guess.
Absolutely
Overrated.
Overrated. I'm going to go underrated, but their last album was overrated.
Oh,
What about
sorry.
he says sorry, red hot chili peppers. What about very hot chili sauces?
Underrated.
Do you like spicy?
Overrated.
So underrated and overrated. And I'm going to go underrated. So me and Jerome like spicy.
Yeah, he likes spicy a lot.
Being a 90s teen.
I would have no idea.
What
When were you a teen?
You were a teen?
Oh,
You
in the
remember
90s?
the 80s.
I was the 80s, yeah.
Okay, you
I
can say
guess
80s
the
teen.
end,
You
yeah.
can say 80s.
So, underrated. The 80s was the best time period ever.
I would say perfect.
I mean,
I
yeah.
guess, 'cause
Yeah,
that's all I
perfect.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I
Nintendo records, I mean, it was perfect.
Oh,
yeah. But for you, what do you say?
Well, I was
I
not
know
a
you-
teen. I was born in the 90s, so I'll say perfect.
I thought you would
For
be like
out of support.
overrated.
I
you
stand
know?
in solidarity with. Okay, here's a 90s book. It's called Agricultural Phosphorus and Eutrophication, a symposium overview by T.C. Daniel. It's from 1998, also from the 90s.
Okay.
I'm just going to say overrated. I don't know. It's pretty long.
Yeah, I would say overrated. I don't know what that is.
Overrated. It was just a joke. Bluetooth.
Oh, overrated.
Agreed. Overrated.
I would say overrated.
Yeah. Voodoo.
He calls it alien technology.
It's so weird. It doesn't sound great. They're working on trying to make it better. I'm glad you agree. What about, okay, I'm going to skip half of these.
We have an agenda, though, so we have to say that.
Oh, well, but I'm with the agenda, okay? I can be biased too with y'all or in solidarity. Fluffy pillows.
Underrated.
Overrated.
Really? You like firm. Okay, I'm with Jerome on that. Man, me and Jerome have a lot. Mosh pits.
Overrated.
I would say overrated. We're too old.
I'd say overrated.
At one time I would have said underrated. But,
You were in a metal band, right, at one point, too. So you got to see some cool mosh pits happen.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll go overrated. Flying first class. You ever done that?
No. Overrated.
Yeah, overrated. It's like those people who sit in first class.
Love to be that guy, smartphone, sitting in first, you do the first class kind of thing where
They're like looking at their phone and they'll look up
every person that walks in, they go,
and look back down at their phone. They'll like look up you like as you're flying. Like they got to fly in first class and you're in the back.
and you make direct, dead eye, like low frequency eye contact. I'd love to do that.
You're in the back. Twitter.
Overrated.
Agree.
Definitely overrated.
Yeah.
Jerome says overrated.
I've never figured it out, but like I remember when it was new, and I tried, but
It's
I
so
don't know
it's
how.
so limiting.
Yeah, I don't know how it works.
There's cool community that's
I
overrated.
bet there is. Yeah.
It's hard. There's no way to explain these. It's just one. Krispy Kreme.
Overrated.
I'm gonna go. Well, actually, no. I'm gonna go underrated. I love donuts. We used to both work at a bakery.
Yeah.
I
That's why I feel like I have to say overrated because
the bakery.
I worked at a locally owned bakery. Krispy Kreme came in, and it was like we had to, like we were worried. Like they had planned on coming and opening up. I know we're not supposed to plan, but anyway, they were gonna like open up like 8 stores, and it was like
8 Krispy Kremes or bakery.
in Evansville. Yeah, they were gonna. They forecasted they were gonna come and open up like a bunch of stores across town. Well, Donut Bank is a locally owned bakery, and I think there is like 7 or 8 in the area. Luckily, like the community really banded around Donut Bank, and although it was the hot new thing and warm donuts were like hot on trend, but they only have the one, and that was like 15 years ago or longer. So either way, so that's why I feel that way about, but I love all donuts. But still,
It's
I
a
just
donut.
have to be like Team Donut Bank because it's local, and it's almost like the difference between like, oh, I got the Target exclusive, blah, 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 and being in an indie record store to like, but the donut world of that.
Support your local donut.
Exactly.
Dad jokes.
Yeah.
Jerome that. Overrated, underrated, perfect. Dad jokes.
I would say perfect, and I don't know, Jerome would advise.
Dad jokes, Jerome.
Bye, guys. Bye. Thank you. Jerome, dad jokes.
Overrated.
Overrated. She said perfect. Overrated. I'm gonna go overrated as well. That's fair. Mustaches.
Overrated.
Oh, that's
Well,
overrated.
Overrated. Underrated.
Like just
They're
solo
in right now.
mustaches?
They're back.
Just solo mustaches.
Yeah, mustaches
Okay, yeah,
are
I'll
back.
just say overrated. But it depends on the face. Every face is different. I don't know.
No, you can say whatever you
Yeah.
want.
I'm trying to-
I don't judge. Okay, we're almost to BuzzFeed quizzes.
Overrated.
I would say overrated.
They're underrated because they're funny. Actually, I'm going to go perfect. I'm going to go perfect because they have their perfect spot in stupidity. True crime shows?
Oh, underrated. Definitely underrated.
Underrated. That's all we watch.
YouTube is our deal, so true crime is 90% of what we watch.
Ooh.
It's true crime, Star Wars, Warhammer, dresses, makeup.
There's not very much dress content on YouTube that I can find, but I do watch makeup. But no, we watch a lot of true crime. The reason why we started watching YouTube true crime stuff is because we've seen all the other true crime videos. Like, I
15
mean,
to 30 minutes long, which is about normal.
our attention span is gone.
Yeah, low commitment. You can get into it for 15, 30 minutes.
You
Yeah.
don't have to invest. Like,
But I also always have to say, though, we're not like true crime fans. I hate, like, for some reason,
The stereotype.
it's like, well, no, it's just the verbiage of that. It's like, we are interested in true crime stories. We find it fascinating, but it's not like, I would rather there not be any true crime
Yeah.
that exists. Like,
But the psychology of it is very interesting. And like,
how could people do that? So I guess that's sort of where it's a weird to be like, I'm a fandom of that. It's just sort of like what we are drawn to, I guess. But anyway, I know we're not supposed to like to describe our experience.
I appreciate that y'all described
Done that. Okay.
riding lawnmowers.
overrated.
Overrated.
Yeah, if you're gonna
I would
do
say
something, do it.
underrated.
If you're gonna do something, do it. But it's so much easier to do a riding lawnmower. Like if you have a lot of space to.
We don't have a big yard, so we don't have a riding. Yeah, we rent, so it's like
So both overrated.
yeah.
I'm gonna go underrated. I used to do that when I was like 12. That was fun. Good memories of that. Napping. That's the last one.
Overrated.
Overrated on napping.
I would say underrated, but I mean we don't just give very many naps in our life.
Yeah, I mean,
Not perfect.
I would prefer not to sleep at all. Period. So
Just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, honestly, I relate to that answer. He actually, that's
I feel like there's always something to do. So
this guy, this dude. This is what I've learned. Me and Jerome have a lot in common. I'm actually, you know what? Jerome has convinced me I'm going overrated. Guys, thank you for doing this. This has been so fun. Well, obviously, there's some other things that I couldn't get to. This was one other thing. Is there anything you guys want to shout out? This town of Evansville, the area, it's so beautiful just driving through. Is there stuff you want to shout out? Is there bands you want to shout out from the area? Is there something cool about Evansville for the people?
Atmos-FEARS Records.
No, come on now.
It is.
Come on.
Shout out
There's
Atmos-FEARS
cool
Records.
stuff
What else in Evansville is cool?
I mean, there is a cool music scene in the area. Like whether it's been of all his time period, my time period, of all the time periods, there's been a great
Even before
local.
my time period, we've hunted down some of the local music from the past, like Steady Well and Sid or Amulet or Hickory Wind or...
But I mean, even just like all ages local music shows, like there's currently, even though we don't get out, like, you know, we're tired at the end of the day, but like there is a local music scene for
there's
all
some
ages bands, like lots of hardcore and post-hardcore and that kind of stuff. So that's cool that there's a scene for the kids now, our kids, you know, younger people. And there was one whenever I was a teenager, so that's really cool. There's a store called The Abyss, or they're called Abyssco now. It's like a really cool consignment shop that they opened up whenever I was a teenager in the 90s. And although they've moved a couple places, they're still around. And it's just a very cool, like, I guess whenever I was a kid, I would say it was like what we called alternative kids would go there. And it was a good way to meet different people. And the Otters Stadium is where they filmed A League of Their Own, is just down the street where from here and from our other location. It's called Garvin Park, and the old Bossy Stadium is where they filmed. And we do have, like, I guess it's like called the Evansville Otters. I don't know what league that they're in. It's not like a major league. There you go. That's it. I don't know anything about sports, but anyway.
We have a hockey team too, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know the name of it.
So, but Evansville's a great place, like, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Y'all gotta get down here to Evansville. Atmos-FEARS Collectibles. Appreciate you guys again. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
And there's lots of local great chugs and smoke rings and.
Yeah, now the smoke rings are from Southern Illinois, and they've been around for like 20 years or longer. The chug, I've got one of the corduroy Orbisons there in the bins. Pop.
I'm gonna check this out.
The chugs are punk, and they're fun, high energy, but they're really growing in popularity. So they're getting pretty big. But yeah.
We have a lot more local artists right now.
Well, you can't keep them in stock because they're too good to keep in stock.
But if you're in a local band and you want to get your stuff in our store, we don't charge anything to sell it. Like, so we're happy to carry it.
Anything else you want to tell the people?
Thank you for supporting your local record store, whether it be ours or whichever your favorite one is, whether they participate in Record Store Day or not. All of those things. I mean, going into a brick and mortar store makes a big difference. If they don't have something in stock, give them a little grace, maybe let them know that you'd like to order it, because, you know, I think right now as economy is sort of like, we're not alone. It's not just our store where we're like,
Any local business.
Yeah, any local business. You know, Jerome likes Warhammer now. He does those figures. So like there's like multiple gaming shops that he goes into, and, you know, it's
Star Wars and whatever. Like, I'm a shopper. I shop all the time.
we collect.
Right now,
we collect
all the
everything.
records I need are very expensive. So
Same.
I find other things to collect. So
Right. Yeah, so we're getting off easy on Warhammer. If you know anything about Warhammer models, they're not cheap.
they're not cheap. Yeah.
Speaking of not cheap, we're about to talk about duplicates, which is not cheap to own.
Right,
We'll get into that next.
Yeah. Awesome.
Guys, thanks again For the people out there, keep on grooving your way. Oh, yeah.
I'm actually in this contest that's fab over 40. And it's not that I'm like,
Nice.
I'm like, I'm so fabulous that I'm over 40. But the prize is 40,000.
Oh.
So like that's
So
not,
great.
Like our business plan is like, well, I'll just win this contest and win $40,000. Like it would all go into the shop, you know.
Exactly. That would be fantastic.
We could build a website. We could get that sign changed. There's just so much that we could use it for the shop. So